I'm going to review the latest cultivars that we have out. Also adding two that are kind of older, but they're still available on the market. So there's Early Glow and All-Star, which are still available. And then I've got these divided by season: early season, Early Glow and Lumina, mid-season Flavor Fest, and a mid-late season Keepsake, All-Star, and finally Cordial at the end. I'll tell you a little bit about each group, I guess. Early Glow has long been our early season cultivar, but I think a lot of people are feeling like the berries are a little too small for consumer preferences these days. So I'm really, really happy to give another early cultivar, USDA Lumina, and I'd like to tell you more about it. Both of these cultivars, in fact, all of the cultivars I'll be talking about today, are resistant to anthracnose fruit rot, which is more and more of a problem than it used to be. So this is a kind of a chart showing how the seasons are. I have about 7 weeks of production. Now I start about the 1st of May, and I go into June. And this is broken down by the percentage of a week's harvest that is contributed by each cultivar. So I'll show this a couple of times for the different cultivars, so that's why I wanted to explain it. So USDA Lumina is in gray, and I marked it with the strawberries so it's easier to see. It starts early with Sweet Charlie, Early Glow. What are some other early ones? Right now, that's all I can think about. Sorry. Anyway, the thing I like about it, this is what I was telling you about Chris earlier, is that although they all fruit together, Lumina, USDA Lumina waits to flower until later than the others. So I photographed this last year, March 8th, and Lumina is not flowering. I don't know about the rest of you, but frost protecting is not my favorite thing to do in the middle of the night. So I prefer to sleep that time of day. So I'm kind of liking this trait a lot. As far as yield goes, it's higher yielding than the other early cultivars. I have a lot of variability in yield from year to year, depending on lots of things, weather, I'm sure you can relate. But consistently, USDA Lumina is higher yielding than the other early season cultivars. And typically we have lower yield in the early season cultivars. But as a breeder, I want to tell you that's not necessarily a thing that always has to be true, because I do have one breeding selection that has tons of yield, but you don't want it because it has a really tart flavor. Okay, but I just want you to know that those two things are not necessarily correlated. Okay, as far as berry size goes, Lumina is a very big berry. For post-harvest studies, I put the fruit in jumbo egg containers. So I think you can see there, these are pretty big fruit. I can't always fit the biggest fruit into these containers, but I try to be consistent in size and maturity. So it's pretty big. You see on the opposite end is Early Glow, and that's something I mentioned earlier. It still has great flavor, so a lot of people like it, and it's still being sold, but there is that difference. When I tell you about fruit quality, I want you to know how I measure it. I have all these little handheld tools in the field. I don't take the fruit into the lab or anything, and I just analyze it out there in the field. So these little tools, the top left is a penetrometer. I just poke, and that's how firm the berry is. I usually have 3 or 4 of them that I'm poking around in, so I get the highest level of firmness. So I'm not poking it in the harder parts, but just kind of around the shoulders where they tend to be softer. That's how I do that. Bottom left is a Brix meter. Maybe some of you have this. This one also doubles as a meter for acidity, titratable acidity. Top right is one that measures pH. This is all of the juice, okay? Well, not the penetrometer, obviously, but okay. Anyway, the juice is Brix, titratable acidity, and the pH. Those are just two ways of measuring the acidity. And then the bottom right is a gloss meter, which turned out to be a lot of fun. And USDA Lumina was the glossiest and stayed glossy. And I'll show you data on that. And the one in the middle is a color meter, which I'm not sure is going to be useful or not, but I'm analyzing the data right now, so that'll be nice. Anyway, these are the little gadgets I use, and that way I collect all data I could possibly think of. And it's interesting how it turns out. For instance, the gloss meter was pretty interesting. First, Brix, though, because that's what everybody's most interested. Brix is the sweetness. You all know that. But the Brix meter kind of tells me not only the sweetness, but it also can detect color variation. Mostly it's the sweetness, though, primarily. I just don't want you to think it's all about sweetness. Early Glow and Lumina are some of the ones at the top. I think you can see some others there too. With the weight and the size of the berry, they're usually correlated, not completely, but basically we've been going on the weight of the berry for many, many years now. The biggest of the berries are quite big on USDA Lumina, and even the overall season average is a good size. Lumina is in the bold red there. And anything in the top tier is in red, so you can see that AC Wendy was firm and tough. It's down lower. I don't know if anybody's grown it. Okay. But Lumina is in the top category in all these traits. Here's the gloss data that I thought was interesting. So I measured gloss the day of harvest as I was packaging the fruit, and I put the berry that I measured in a particular slot in the egg carton, and it was that berry that I measured 1 week later and 2 weeks later. So that's how I did this. It's very tedious, but it was very interesting, because sometimes we see a thing and sometimes we remember it and sometimes we don't remember it. So data is very helpful. So not only was it the glossiest the day of harvest, but it stayed the glossiest in storage for 2 weeks. That's pretty nice. In fact, that's kind of how it was named, though I went through several versions trying to name it. It's not as easy as you might think, but it was, because it's very brightly colored, it's very glossy, it's kind of shaped like light Christmas lights. So I don't know, something light related. So the percentage marketable after refrigerated storage was also higher. I measure the amount of rot, which has gotten pretty low in these breeding trials. Physical degradation is a component of whether it stays marketable or not. Color changes, which I am observing in the data I'm analyzing, is a component. But how glossy it is really important, because people associate glossiness with freshness. So I think I'll be continuing that sort of thing. So this is just another summary of the traits of USDA Lumina. I don't think it'll be terribly available this year, though several major nurseries do have plants of it and they're propagating it. If you're interested, please, in any of these, with any of these cultivars, if you're interested, please let your favorite nursery know what you like, what you want to try when it becomes available, and keep telling them, because these nurseries invest a lot of time and money in propagating these plants, and they could make a decision. If they stop hearing from you, they could say, oh, well, nobody's interested anymore. So we have to help them know that they'll have a market for their product. It's kind of a push and a pull system in strawberries. Sure, Chris.
I called Indiana Berry last week to get a hold of some cordial plants, and they got them all oversold right now, but they told me that they are going to keep planting them. So
Good.
call, don't wait for the varieties to come out the catalog, make an effort, pick up the phone, and they'll listen.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was going to call Sam after the meeting today, just to find out how things were going. Mid-season, Flavor Fest and Keepsake, though Keepsake is a little more later than Flavor Fest. I'll show you here in a second. Again, both nice berries, big, flavorful, good yields, but I'll go over that here. So, okay, now I have two colors with berries in them. So the blue one is Flavor Fest. How many grow Flavor Fest? Okay, thanks very much. Keepsake is the green one, a little later. You see how it goes a little later? And in case you're familiar with All-Star, the dark blue one above the green, that's All-Star. So you see Keepsake's a little later than All-Star. Yeah?
And is week 1 signifying the first week of May, like you stated earlier?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I try to start the very first. So I harvest on Mondays and Thursdays. So if you look at the calendar at May and you look at the first week, I'll be harvesting Monday of that week, no matter what.
Rain or shine.
So part of it is your frost protection. You guys know Bob Rouse, right? Oh yeah. So Bob told me when I had things that were flowering way sooner than I knew what to deal with, he goes, well, do you want to start harvesting in April? So, probably not. So that's why I know that I can count on first week of May to harvest. Let's see. Okay, yield. So I've got Flavor Fest and Keepsake marked. Statistically, every year they're the same, but I will tell you every year Flavor Fest has a little tiny bit more than Keepsake. So statistics, anyway. That is a picture of Keepsake up there, by the way. Okay. Feel free to photograph any of these that you like. That's an easy way to take notes, too. The berry size for both of these is really big, and the order here is according to the peak weight. This is not the biggest berry that I have. I have an average berry weight for every harvest, and the peak weight, it represents the week that I had the highest berry weight average, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's not just one berry, because we all know you can get one that's enormous. Okay, maximum bricks. This measuring bricks, again, is very weird. Flavor Fest really, really tastes good. Keepsake really tastes good. The difference in bricks here does not indicate a difference in sweetness in my experience. There's chemical aromas. I love it when I taste caramel, burnt sugar, cotton candy, those kinds of flavors, because I've even had a berry that was a Brix of 7, which is considered fairly low, that because it had caramel flavor overtones, it tasted very sweet and flavorful. I really liked it. It didn't become a cultivar, but okay. Percentage marketable, here's where Keepsake really shines. It has a better shelf life. It stays glossy and pretty for a while. In fact, my mom visited me one time, and she did it right in the middle of strawberry season because I wanted her to experience that just once. And I was collecting the post-harvest data, and so after 2 weeks, you know, they're just going to go in the dump, right? So I'm feeding them to my mom, and she's like gobbling them up. It was the most fun I ever had with that process. Okay, so summary of mid-season here. I think we pretty much covered everything. Oh, Flavor Fest has a sort of an overstuffed appearance. Keepsake has a more classic berry appearance. Okay, late season is cordial. Really big, really high yield. The Brix is not that impressive, but this is the one that has the cotton candy flavor, which I really like. Oh, and it first impressed me because it was so resistant to rain. That picture in the top right was taken on a very rainy day in 2018. You remember that series of rainy years we had from 16, 17, and 18? Well, this was one of those where it was raining all day long. and it had rained all day long, all week. It was one of those. Okay, here's the yield. You see how late it is in brown. Berry size, it's, as my son used to say, it's ginormous, which I thought might have made a good name, but no. It was named after the fact that it's, yeah, you like that? Okay. Anyway, it was named after the fact that even in the rain, it's not really tart. Like, you know how early glow, it's really sweet when it's happy, but if it's been raining, it's really tart. So it was named cordial because it's not, and in this case, it's cordial is friendly. Okay, it doesn't bite you. So it has really, really high yield. You see, it's my new yield leader. Okay, I wanted Sam to get that picture. So this, I mean, look at that yield. Is that gorgeous? This was taken the morning of the first time that cordial was picked that year. And I should warn you that cordial is so big that people tend to pick it early, and then they're not impressed by the flavor. So I don't know how to manage that as a grower with, pick your own. It has really good shelf life. It's up there with Keepsake. Here's the bricks. You see how it's all the way down to the one side? That's why I've been telling you, bricks doesn't always relate to flavor. All of these are cultivars. All of these are doing just great. Okay, summary of cordial. Now I know one thing you're interested in is how do they do with Neopestalotiopsis? And of course we're having a lot of discussions on that today. We've got Sam, Minjin. Way in the back we've got a solution. Joe? Okay, so I don't have much experience with Neopestalotiopsis. See this? This is from your planting. So I was told that I had purchased Flavorfest plants with Neopestalotiopsis. And so I went looking in the plants for symptoms of any kind. I didn't see anything that I didn't recognize. So when Chris told me that he had some here at the Y, I zipped down to see him and I took these pictures. And I went back to my plants and I looked. I still didn't see anything, so no luck there. The next year, I don't know what happened, but that field looked like this after harvest. I don't know if it was blight or Neopestalotiopsis, but I can tell you that the field was overwatered because this was one of those pandemic years where I had no help. My main guy retired, his replacement had hip surgery, and I didn't see him for a long time. And my farm crew, bless their hearts, set the watering just a little too high. It's automated to try to save time, but I don't know what's going on here, but I do know that blight and Neopestalotiopsis can look a lot alike. Do you see this picture? The one at the top is blight, and the one at the bottom is Neopestalotiopsis. So I'm sure Sam will tell you this doesn't always look like this, but it can. While Minjin was in my screen house, see how famous you guys are? Yeah. So when Minjin was in my screen house, he's like, what's that? And so I said, well, I think it's blight. And he goes, oh, I'm not so sure. He takes it back, sure enough, it's Neopestalotiopsis. Now we have a world-class fungal taxonomy research group in the building that I work in. And so I asked them, are you interested in getting some samples? You know, they look for genetic diversity and that sort of thing in the fungus. And that actually turns out to be a pretty important issue with Neopestalotiopsis. So they said, yeah, we're interested. So I go back out to the screen house and I'm like, where is it? So my technician had gone through after Minjin was there and removed all the leaves to the screen house that she thought might be something, because she's very thorough, bless her heart. But they never came back. The disease never came back. So I don't know what that means. I'm really anxious to know if any of my cultivars are resistant, tolerant, whatever you're saying. But I don't know. I know Sam's doing some work on this with Minjin, and I'm really excited to hear about their findings. This study was published from a group in Indiana, and it was funded by the North American Strawberry Growers Association. And what they found what they did was they had 4 tests. They inoculated the plants, waited 48 hours. They grew them in a mist chamber. You know, they made it nice for the Neopistolotiopsis. And then they grew them for 3 weeks, if I'm guessing right. But I've heard from Kathy Demchek up in Pennsylvania that many of you may know that maybe that wasn't long enough to show symptoms. Still, I got to ask, I've asked this everywhere else, how resistant do we need our cultivars to be? We want them to survive, because that's our big problem right now, right? If they survive and they have a normal yield the next year, is that good enough? Or do we insist that they have no spots on their leaves? Or do we insist that they, if you test them, they test negative? How resistant do they have to be? This is something that the breeders, like me, we need your feedback on this. And I'm sure if any chemical company comes up with a fungicide, they're going to want to know how well you want it to perform too. So think about that as you go through the next couple of seasons. So anyway, the results were all the ones on the left there showed no symptoms. So this is very encouraging to me because 2 of our cultivars are there, Early Glow and Flavor Fest, and I know Sam's testing another one. But this is very encouraging to me. So I'm hoping that the cultivars that we've been developing for you guys are going to be okay. Now, I don't have Neopistolotiopsis on my farm that I know of, though I think what Munjin found says that it can be there. It can come in. That was after a hurricane, and it can come in on a hurricane. And this was in a screen house, by the way, no exposure to real soil. So I think it might come to my farm eventually. And when it does, I'm going to treat it like everything else. Or rather, I should say, I'm going to treat my strawberries like everything else. I'm really, really, really mean to them. I'm really mean, okay? I'm going to quickly go over how mean I am to them. Don't do this on your farm. Okay. So I plant them. And for the next couple of weeks, because I plant them really late, I mist them. When it gets hot, it comes on automatically. So it's hot and it's wet. Perfect for Neopistolotiopsis. Okay, when I manage my runners, because I lost staff during the pandemic and figured out this works, I use a battery-operated backpack leaf blower. I blow the runners all out from the middle of the bed, and then I come along later with a weed whacker, and zip, it helps if it's on a wet day, but oh, is that good for transmitting diseases too. So don't do what I do. But this is what I do. Okay. I used to be really nice to them in the winter. I used to tuck them in, give them a cookie, tell them a story with a straw. Then when the pandemic came and I had no labor, it was the row covers. And then after looking at them underneath the row covers, which the farm crew thought was hilarious, I decided, you know what? We deserve to have plants that we don't have to baby all winter long, don't we? At least as far up as we can. So now I'm not doing anything. They're just sitting out there right now. And in the spring, I'm even meaner to them. During frost protection, I'm applying all this water, and I don't use any fungicides. So don't do what I do. But this is how we get disease-resistant plants. We do this every year. And unfortunately, our program does not have a pathologist that I can ask to, brew up inoculum and spray it out at the right level. So that's the best I can hope for, is to be really, really mean to them. So I'm not dealing with Neopistolotiopsis, but I am dealing with anthracnose crown rot. Once again, I have to thank Minjin Hoon for coming out to the farm and telling me what I had. So he confirmed that my plant death was due to Colototricum siamense, right? That's how you pronounce it? Right, okay, good. So anyway, anthracnose crown rot, bad thing. We knew it was coming up from the north. Now they're complaining about it in the northeast, so it's everywhere. Do you guys have it yet? No? Okay, good. Well, I do, so I've got a head start. Maybe I'll have resistant cultivars soon. So I got really bad death in 2022, 70% death in my seedling field, but that allowed me to determine the inheritance of the trait just based on, you remember Mendel's P's in like 5th grade? Okay, just simple math. And it also allowed me to figure out which of my parent plants had genes for resistance. So cross, 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 it gets better every year. And I knew I had resistance when I saw situations like this, where you had a dead plant in the middle of live plants, or you have a live plant in the middle of dead plants. Plus, the segregation ratios gave it away when one parent was consistently giving me the same information through all the families. And then you see something like this, where you've got complete death, and then the next family is live. You know, that's good news. So now, last year, I only have 2 genes segregating. So I've already eliminated 1 gene for susceptibility. I know that's backwards, but as you can see with how I grow these things, everything I do is backwards. I love diseases because I want them to kill the susceptible potential cultivars before they get into your hands. Okay, so that process has given us all anthracnose fruit rot resistant cultivars for you. And that is my contact information. Please feel free to take a picture. And thank you very much. And if you do have any questions,
Thank you.
they think I'm too mean to ask questions of.
No, ask, I mean, we need her program, you know, we support it here at the Y, but I mean, what she's doing, the way she's doing it is very important to, you know, the betterment of strawberries everywhere.
We're so lucky to have Bellsville right in our backyard.
We are.
Same question every year. What Matted Road updates do you have? Because I'm assuming all this stuff's on Hodgepodge, right?
What?
Matted Road.
They all grow fine. Well, okay, that's not fair to say. That's not fair to say.
this on the phone.
Because I will say that any plant that you can grow on matted row, you can definitely grow on plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, I don't test on matted row anymore. So that's why I have you.
We can't get plants. I'm doing the flavor press and stuff, but we can't.
Wait, you can't get flavor press?
No, we can. You can get flavor
Okay.
press, but all these other ones, they're still struggling.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Lynn cornered the market on
Well, yeah, we
cordial.
yell at them. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we talked to them, but I mean, we'll see.
yeah.
I haven't bought them yet.
So that's 2. Keepsake, I'm surprised you can't get from Production LaRoe.
I think we have gotten keepsake, it just hasn't done well.
Okay, what?
Yeah.
Ruben Martin
For sure.
had it. Maplewood Farm. And that was-
Right, he had it,
Ruben
but
had-
Production
yeah, that's
LaRoe,
what he
you're
got.
matted row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're on that.
And you didn't call me? What's the deal?
I think we called it. What?
I don't
To see your keepsake.
Don't do it.
Flavor Fest is beautiful.
Yeah?
Keepsake not so much.
I mean,
Side.
we're back to glut for early season. So Lumina, be cool to try that. I think we have some test plants in the ground.
You do?
I think.
Okay. Okay.
Where'd you
Well-
get them?
I don't know, we got like.
He's not telling.
Right. I'm gonna hunt down some Lumina so we can test it here and have it in our strawberry twilights for
Yeah.
everybody to come and see.
Okay. I'm gonna ask Lynn to put keepsake in the ground one more time. And I wanna see it.
That's a real thing. You and she. It's a real thing.
Okay, yeah, but she buys the cultivars, right?
We might, I think we do have some keepsake.
Okay, please figure out where it is this year, I wanna come see it.
No, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
it should
No,
be,
you're fine. You're right.
I'm pretty
It's fine.
sure it'll be in its first ripening this year.
Okay, good.
So.
Because Ben Butler grew it,
Mhm.
and he said, oh, it's not sweet. And so I was out there at the farm the very next day with my little bricks meter, okay? And he was picking it too early. So I found one that was ripe, and I showed it to him, and you should have seen his eyes bug out. It was very rewarding for me. Where'd you go? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
He just handed me a
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Like I said, we need you. We need your program.